just getting started, darling.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're discussing the evolution of Cruella de Vil.
I'll get even. Just wait. You'll be sorry. You fools. You idiots!
I'm beginning to see spots.
One movie and you're labeled for life.
Cruella de Vil will take center stage in her upcoming live-action spin-off origin story, but it's been a long trip down the runway for this devilish character. For this video, we'll be looking at Cruella's evolution throughout literature, film, and television, exploring how the character has changed and what elements have remained the same. Are you looking forward to Cruella? Let us know in the comments. There comes a time in every person's life when they suddenly realize, oh, her name is literally Cruel Devil.
It's her. It's that devil woman.
Cruella isn't the first character to possess the surname de Vil, though. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, Count de Vil is an alias that the titular vampire uses to purchase real estate across London. We suppose it's a more creative alias than Alucard or Dr. Acula. Although Cruella isn't a vampire, she does share a fair deal in common with Dracula.
Vampire bat, this inhuman beast, she ought to be locked up and never released.
Both are theatrical creatures, both wear black and white, and both are fine with having a little blood on their hands. Cruella and Dracula even have similar tastes in architecture. Hell Hall certainly wouldn't look out of place in a Universal monster movie.
They say the old place is haunted or bewitched or some such fiddle-faddle.
Fiddle-faddle and rot, sir.
Just the same, Sergeant. Use extreme caution.
While we all associate Dracula with bats, he also transforms into a dog in the original novel. Cruella might not be able to shapeshift, but she does wish to drape herself in a fur coat made from Dalmatians. This has been Cruella's motivation since she was first introduced in Dodie Smith's 1956 book, The 101 Dalmatians. Smith established Cruella as a London heiress who's obsessed with fur, so much so that she married a furrier solely due to his occupation.
My only true love, darling. I live for furs. I worship furs. After all, is there a woman in all this wretched world who doesn't?
Being the last of the de Vils, Cruella kept her maiden name and made her meek husband adopt her surname.
Marriage. Perhaps. More good women have been lost to marriage than to war, famine, disease, and disaster. You have talent, darling. Don't squander it.
Adding to her hellish persona, Cruella prefers extreme temperatures and a bizarre amount of pepper on her food. Cruella also owns a white Persian cat, although she treats her more like a possession than a pet. She even drowns her cat's kittens, failing to see their worth. Cruella's far more interested in dogs, Dalmatians specifically. Once the Dearly family's Dalmatians get their spots, Cruella adds them to her collection of kidnapped puppies, which reaches the upper 90s. Fortunately, the dogs escape before Cruella can turn them into fur coats. Aided by Cruella's cat, the Dalmatians destroy Cruella's furs that haven't been paid off, sending the de Vils into a financial nightmare. Cruella returns in Smith's 1967 follow-up The Starlight Barking, although she's moved on from fur to metallic plastics. As such, her role is significantly reduced. Between Smith's two books, Cruella made her film debut in Disney's 1961 animated classic 101 Dalmatians. For many mainstream audiences, this was their introduction to the villainess.
Miserable, darling, as usual, perfectly wretched.
Disney's interpretation of Cruella remains mostly faithful to her literary counterpart's appearance, personality, and motivation. Disney ditched a few details, however, like Cruella's husband, her love of heat, and her cat. Although we guess Sergeant Tibbs filled that role. Cruella was voiced by Cinderella narrator Betty Lou Gerson, who inspired animator Mark Davis to give the character distinctive cheekbones.
I had the feeling that a little of me came through in the thing. The cheekbones got higher, the face got a little skinnier. I don't like to use the word camp, but that was basically it.
Elements of Betty Davis, Rosalind Russell, and Tallulah Bankhead can be found in Cruella as well.
Hello, darling. Miss Bankhead?
Yes?
This is Lucy Ricardo.
Yes.
Character actress Mary Wick served as Cruella's reference model, almost 35 years before voicing Laverne in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Quasi, take it from an old spectator. Life's not a spectator sport. If watching is all you're gonna do, then you're gonna watch your life go by without you.
Cruella was such a scene stealer that Disney almost brought her back as the villainess in 1977's The Rescuers. Writer Ken Anderson even drew some concept art with Cruella wearing alligator skins. However, animators like Ollie Johnston didn't like the idea of continuing Cruella's story in a sequel. Disney ultimately filled the villain role with Madame Medusa, who shares Cruella's over-the-top demeanor, reckless driving skills, and willingness to harm the innocent. Of course, Cruella would eventually return in the straight-to-video sequel Patch's London Adventure, which sees the fashionista channel her canine craving into art.
The possibility of triumph, the certainty of defeat, the culmination of all I've ever wished for but could not grasp.
It isn't long until Cruella reverts back to her old schemes, however.
I don't want you to make art of the puppies. I want you to make art with the puppies. Use their coats as canvases. Create a masterpiece in a new medium.
Cruella also served as the main antagonist in 101 Dalmatians, the series. The show's Christmas special is arguably the first attempt to give Cruella a sympathetic backstory, explaining that she always wanted a Dalmatian growing up.
Next time I better get a puppy with spots. It's obvious your early yearning for a Dalmatian puppy represented a deep-seated need to substitute the love you didn't get from your parents.
And that means?
Her parents were never around to celebrate Christmas, though, sending her clothes instead. Like Ebenezer Scrooge, Cruella has a change of heart in time for Christmas. But things soon return to the status quo. Cruella made guest appearances in House of Mouse and 101 Dalmatian Street, the latter of which takes place 6 decades after the 1961 film. This time, Cruella attempts to capture the descendants of the Dalmatians with help from her great-nephew Hunter de Vil. Yeah, it gets weird. Cruella made the leap to live action in Disney's 1996 adaptation, with Glenn Close bringing the character to life.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? You are.
Close was perhaps even more animated than her predecessor, earning a Golden Globe nomination for her deliciously demented performance. Close returned in 102 Dalmatians, which briefly sees Cruella reform before her puppy napping habits kick back in.
And cruel as fuck!
In the TV series Once Upon a Time, Cruella adds parricide to her list of crimes before temporarily taking over the underworld. Fitting, seeing how her name is de Vil.
Doeskin of all things. I'm not saying it's Bambi's iconic dead mother. And I'm not saying it's not.
Just tell me about the graveyard.
Cruella also popped up among her fellow banished baddies in Descendants, where she has a son named Carlos. Who's Carlos's father? We don't know, but our money's on Horace or Jasper. Throughout her 65 years in media, Cruella has always been a nefarious character. Quote, "I was really determined that Cruella be as bad as possible," Close stated in a 1996 interview. "I think Cruella basically has no redeeming human characteristics. Except she does have a sense of humor, albeit wicked."
Well, if we make this coat, it would be as if I were wearing your dog. Woof, woof.
What direction will Emma Stone's Cruella take, though?
It's a world of opportunity. And I was meant for more in this life.
In many live-action remakes of their animated classics, Disney has either fleshed out their villains or given them the spotlight. An example of the former is 2015's Cinderella, which portrayed Lady Tremaine as a more nuanced villain who's been torn apart by heartbreak and wants a better life for her daughters.
And so, I lived unhappily ever after. My story would appear to be ended.
2014's Maleficent, meanwhile, turned the Mistress of Evil into a misunderstood protagonist, doing for Sleeping Beauty what Wicked did for The Wizard of Oz.
You stole what was left of my heart.
We hope this new film doesn't try to humanize Cruella too much, however. After all, she wants to skin puppies.
I want the job done tonight.
Are we gonna do it?
Any way you like, poison them, drown them, bash them in the head. You got any chloroform?
It's hard to maintain that essential element and expect us to sympathize with the character.
Lighten the mood.
Numerous outlets have compared the trailers to Joker, While Disney obviously won't go for a hard R, we can imagine Emma Stone's Cruella working as an Arthur Fleck-like character, a social reject whose actions aren't justified, but whom circumstances and society drove to madness.
Who are you? I'm brilliant. Bad. And a little bit mad.
The footage seen so far is also reminiscent of The Devil Wears Prada. That is, if Anne Hathaway's character went down a dark path. The DeVille wears puppies, if you will.
Liv, oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this. Everybody wants to be us.
Emma Thompson's Baroness von Hellman will be a, quote, antagonist to Cruella who's thought to be pivotal in her transformation to the villain we know today.
Whether you have the killer instinct is the big question.
Hopefully, this means Cruella won't be outright redeemed in the end.
This doesn't have to be a scene.
It really, really does.
I'd like to remind you all that I'm doing this in heels.
In any case, Cruella will always be remembered as one of cinema's most iconic villains, not to mention one of Disney's premier baddies.
Do you understand?
The American Film Institute even ranked Cruella number 39 on their 100 greatest heroes and villains list, putting her in the same league as the evil queen from Snow White, Man from Bambi, and even Count Dracula. Evil doesn't look good on everyone, but Cruella has always pulled it off flawlessly.
Dear the light.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.